Hello again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
Orange
It is that time, your favorite time of the week. We're not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews and your fantasy league. Orange Weekly. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. Like Lindsay, Sutton, and Judy. We are that Mile High Broncos country. Orange Weekly.
Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news. Hey, what is up, Broncos country? Long time no see. Glad you're here. Free agency has begun. And yeah, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. And as usually, we do things here. Post your comments, post your questions. We want to talk with you, not just at you. You can also feel free to grab that drink, kick back, relax. But remember, drink responsibly and do not drink and drive. But relax and let's have some good times. Jared, just you and I tonight, man. It's like old school year one Orange Weekly.
Look, Gabby, we just wrapped up year 5. That's why I brought the sunglasses back. I forgot about it. This was an original thing, just the two of us, and we've grown pretty well. And I'm happy that we're here. And let's talk about some Broncos free agency, man. Not a crazy amount of movement and that a lot of people were wanting. We really only signed one person that was not originally on our team, and there's a couple questions out there. But let's start off as the questions start pouring in. Please comment your questions. Let's start off with the big news this morning. We did enact Von Miller's option. Yep. So Von Miller is going to be a Bronco again next year as we try to work out a long-term deal with him even further past next year. And I know there's a lot of back and forth. I know I'd say about a good majority of Broncos country is pretty happy that we got to keep our star player, got to keep the face of the franchise, especially with learning about Philip Lindsay's tender. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But hey, let's start the show off on the good news. Von Miller's a Bronco again.
Oh man, I think that, some people were cringing. Some people were, no, it's not going to happen. Others, of course it's going to happen. It's good to get that out of, we know it's happened. We all can take a sigh of relief, right? Really quickly, Seth, glad you're here. Red Cloud, good to see you, man. Terry, glad you're here as well. Of course, guys, hit that share button as usual. But yeah, we want to hear what you guys think about Von Miller. Well, we also let go of AJ Boye, Jarrell Casey, and another one. So the Von thing is great. I want to come back to that later. But one thing that I think is maybe being overlooked or not discussed as much is Philip Lindsay. And want to hear what your take is on that.
Yeah, so Philip Lindsay.
Like Keith, yep.
Right. So I don't know if it's so much Philip Lindsay hate. So here's the thing. He was an undrafted guy, came in to play for his hometown. We hold him to a lot higher standard than I think other teams do. And I don't think this is a Lindsay hate situation. This is almost what we did with Von, where it was like, let's see what the everybody out there is looking at for running backs in that aspect. He's a smaller running back. He's obviously very good in certain schemes. There was a tweet earlier today that mentioned that he's not a good scheme fit for the Denver Broncos. I thought he was great as a 1-2 punch in the backfield. I really did. Yeah. But I don't think it's so much hate as in, I don't think there's going to be a lot of teams, especially with the cap issues right now. They have until, tomorrow at 4 p.m. to figure out their cap issues. And I don't think there's going to be a big grouping of people looking for maybe a RB2. He could be an RB1 in maybe a couple schemes, but are those people able to afford what he has. And I think that there's a high chance that even if someone does pop up with something, we might be able to match it. Cause I think he's going to go for about 2 to 3 million a year. And I think we're going to be able to match it. I think we're more gambling on that aspect and letting him play that than anything else. But that's my take. And, some people might see differently. And the same thing, and we'll get to that too. Kareem Jackson, he's probably going to get going. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. So, with Philip Lindsay, I think he complements Gordon well. I don't really, looking back this last year, I don't think they were using him well in the scheme. Look, Philip Lindsay is not a run up the middle guy. People say, well, Philip Lindsay can't catch. Okay, that's something you can work on, right? Especially with the scheme. And I would change the scheme. You can fix that and adjust to his style.
I would even say towards the end of the year, he showed that wasn't the case. He was catching stuff out of the backfield pretty well. But yeah, sorry about that.
No, exactly right. So, I mean, that's something that, you can improve on in multiple ways. So you have those two together, you use them in a wise manner. And I would like to think that Pat Shurmur is going to look at that this last year and say, why are we running Philip Lindsay up the middle so often? We're still waiting to see if the league is going to suspend Melvin Gordon. We're not thinking they will.
I don't think they will after the charges got dropped. So I don't think the league's going to suspend him. I think that's what they were waiting for to see what that case was going to do. But
exactly. So either way, look, put them both out there. You have, the other team doesn't know. Are they going to throw to the outside, Philip Lindsay from the backfield? Are they going to run it with Melvin Gordon? It just gives you so many more options. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised another team kind of throws something out there just to see, what they can get if, for that low price. But I think at this point, it's more to see the Broncos trying to see, or, what are teams going to offer them? But at the same time, it's something that I can't see us letting him go. Really quickly, where is it? Kale from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. We're international here. We are international here.
Our resident Canadian is not on the show today. When he comes back, we'll let him know. Yeah, Matt did you not know that Matt was Canadian? Born, raised, and still living French Canadian. You know what? We'll move on. Anyways, so hey, thanks for joining us up from Alberta. I appreciate it. So yeah, on the Philip Lindsay piece, and we'll move on to I think the next couple questions probably revolved around my biggest I guess disappointment so far in this free agency is Kareem Jackson. But as far as Philip Lindsay goes, we have to remember we value him so high. And the other reason, and I think I tweeted it last night before the Vaughn signing this morning, was we have two faces of the franchise. The first one's Von Miller, Super Bowl MVP, obviously the face of the franchise, been that for like 6 years. And the other one is Philip Lindsay. And the reason Philip Lindsay is one of our faces of the franchise is because he's got that story, right? The Colorado kid, grew up, didn't get any offers of college, went to CU Boulder, didn't get any offers, didn't get any invites to the combine, didn't get any offers, didn't get drafted. Walks on to the Broncos, and next thing you know, he's kind of becoming a star, 1,000-yard rushers back-to-back years. We value him a lot better than I think a lot of other teams do. And I think that's kind of what George Payton is doing as he's coming in. He's going to understand that other people are not going to value him as much as our fan base does. So while it's a hurt to the fan base, I think as a team, that's what they're looking at. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about my disappointment so far, and we'll continue running down everything. We'll get to Ronald Darby. We'll get to everything. Stick around with us. But this is a hot topic. Kareem Jackson officially let go. Let him go to free agency. I don't think he's going to come back.
No,
I don't think this is a Shelby Harris situation. He was, and again, I think there was a comment up here. I'll go back and look for it, but he was the heartbeat and the kind of thumper of our defense, and he played very, very well in that Vic Fangio. Yep, in our Vic Fangio defense last year. So it was kind of tough. I know it opened up some cap space, but this one was a little tough for me. And there's one of two things that's going through my head. Either they have a safety in mind that they want to bring in, or they have faith in either Will Parks, who is also, out there because we only signed him back for the rest of the year, or Trey Marshall, who received a tender. So what's our option at safety now? With letting Kareem Jackson go, it's kind of become a focal point of what our offseason is going to be.
Yeah. That hurts. Yeah, you're right. I can't see him coming back. To not see him on the field, it's definitely going to be an adjustment. Now, can Coach Fangio overcome that? Yeah, 100%. You know, with his defense, and you're seeing more and more teams are starting to copy the Broncos defense, the Coach Fangio system, right? So I think we'd be able to find somebody, bring them in and adjust well there. So, and look, this is free agency. This is football. At the end of the day, people have to come and go. You know, people aren't always going to stay on the same team for their entire career, like Von Miller and whatnot. So you got to adapt. And the other thing is we saw so many injured players this last year that we have so many now players that are depth players with a lot of experience that, again, I think that's, as much as it sucked last year, I can only see it play in our favor for the upcoming season.
Yeah, it's just tough because, you know, we let this same Vic Fangio and his defense let Will Parks go, and then we brought him back. I like Will Parks and Justin Simmons back there, but for some reason they didn't see it. They let him go to Philly, and he may have been asked for it because that's where he's from, but, you know, we brought him back. I'd like to see that duo back depending on how he's doing in the offseason. But, yeah, I think you're right, Brandon. We either have to draft one, and I know there's a couple names out there kind of like mid-round guys, second, third-round guys that are apparently really good. But again, I think going back to the earlier conversation was he was our Aqib Talib replacement, right? He was our kind of like the hard-headed, you know, the get the guys fired up type of defensive player. And letting him go, I don't know. It's a little off to me, and I don't know. That's honestly the only thing so far that we've done that's made no sense to me.
We could bring him back. You know, there is that option. I don't see it happening, but we're still learning what Peyton does. You know, he's such a new GM to begin with, but the Broncos GM that, you know, I can't say for certain. It's not like we have a history here, even with him being another team, to say, okay, here's what we expect based off what he's done in the past. So, you know, it could be something that we're not expecting.
Yeah, and going back to the Lindsey thing, Kale, it hasn't been feeling respected, and I think what it was, and again, same thing, in your opinion, didn't feel wanted, and that's what's making him go. And then there's another question here. There's another thing here. None of this attracts free agents, and I get it. And I think from the Philip Lindsay piece is what they were doing was they were doing that 2-back set, right? So they have the 2-back set, and what they were trying to do was not. What the Broncos have done in the past on offensively is that if Philip Lindsay was back there, there's no way we're going to pass because he can't pass block and he couldn't catch right at the time. And there's no way we're running up the middle. It's going to be an outside zone, right? Like that's kind of what you saw when you saw Philip Lindsay in there. What they were trying to do was it didn't matter what running back was in there. Let the running back coach switch him in and out. The offensive play call was the offensive play call. Let them play it. And I just don't think that he fit that for certain plays. And it's kind of harder to do that without obviously scripting for the defense what they were doing. So I think that's what happened because there was a couple times where we were running up the middle all day. And yes, of course, Philip Lindsay doesn't have as good of a game as Melvin Gordon, but it's because he's not an up the middle runner. I mean, he's a zone runner, but most of the time he's a speed guy on the outside. So I think that's where a lot of that comes into play. And I know his sister's been pretty vocal about it on Facebook about the lack of respect for the types of carries he was getting throughout the season. But thanks for your opinion. I appreciate that, Kale. And that's what we're thinking.
Yeah. It'll be interesting again, just to kind of see what they, not just what teams. I would bet money that Philip Lindsay is going to come back. So what is Pat Shurmur more is what I'm looking for is what is he going to do to change up the offense in general moving into this next season? Look, hopefully by the time we get to July, you start seeing those full training camps, none of this virtual stuff. You know, the team gels together. A lot of these players don't have excuses like they did before, like Drew Lock, like, you know, the team in general. How is the offense going to gel if they're always doing virtual stuff? So, you know, getting these players into rhythm and getting them in those preseason games before the season starts, I think hopefully that'll enough time and enough practice before the season starts to see what Pat Shurmur's come up with during the offseason to hopefully, you know, not disrespect Lindsay, but get him, you know, in a position where he's best fit.
Yep. So there's someone else I want to move on to, and we're kind of going back and forth between disappointing news and what we're waiting on. Because I mean, Lindsey isn't gone. Remember that we did tender him for like the least amount of tender you could possibly have, and I could see the Broncos matching something, but it's also kind of letting him see what the actual options are for him out there. Because maybe he can get a big payday. And honestly, we kind of want him to. If we can't pay him, I kind of want him to get a big payday because he is a good athlete and he's a good person, really. But let's talk about some more positives. 3-year deal with Shelby Harris. Talk about, man, his roller coaster ride of a like, NFL career is amazing.
Yeah.
He came in undrafted, played decent enough to get an extra year with us, and we let him test the free market. He didn't get the free market last year. He kind of came back and we were like, okay, we'll give you kind of the baseline deal for defensive men. All of our defensive line gets thrown out the window through whatever the case was for injuries. And he is a monster out there. And he played so well in the absence of Jarrell Casey last year that they were like, all right, Casey, peace. I'm taking Shelby Harris for the rest of this time because, and talk about another story that's just amazing. I love this signing. I love Shelby Harris staying with us because he proved through the year that he could actually be the number one guy and the main guy on that defensive line without needing an extra person out there to make him better.
Right. And I keep going back to just the idea of how much of a focal point he is for that defensive line. You know, when Derek Wolfe left, you know, it hurt, right? So if we had lost Shelby Harris too, now you're just talking about an even bigger kind of like, holy crap, you know, what are we going to do from here? So I think we're still holding on to that defensive line that we know that these guys can really look towards somebody, and that's Shelby Harris.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'm just going to run down a couple list of names of people that we're still kind of waiting. Again, tomorrow at 4:00. And I think someone asked, I think it is 4 Eastern time. I want to double check that though. But I believe it's 4 Eastern time's the deadline that each NFL team, all 32 teams, need to be at their cap space going into next year. And remember, 8 million is the number that you need to have in order to be able to do the draft. So everybody needs to be 8 million under that cap that was set from the NFL. Mm-hmm. So here's some names of unrestricted and restricted free agents. Again, unrestricted free agents, if we get to the end of tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time, they're gone. They're basically, we've released them. And I mean, we could try to reassign them, but if we didn't do it beforehand, it's going to be up to them. So Devontae Bosby, which I feel like he's probably going to be going. That's another one. Tackle DeMar Dotson, who ended up filling in a little bit for some injuries. Mm-hmm. That's going to be interesting because he's kind of a play anywhere on the line kind of guy. Safety Will Parks, that was a big one that I was talking about earlier. I think safety Will Parks is going to be interesting because of the letting go of Kareem Jackson, letting him test free agency. I would not be surprised to see either something first thing tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon about something about Will Parks.
Yep.
DeMarcus Walker, I think he's gonna go. Elijah Wilkinson again played a lot on the offensive line. It depends on how much we feel about him. And again, if we let both Wilkinson and Dotson go, now we're looking at needing a backup offensive lineman or maybe a starting offensive lineman, depending on what's happening with our offensive line. Restricted free agents. So we already did tenders on Alexander Johnson, Philip Lindsay, and Tim Patrick. So those guys are probably going to be sticking around. Philip Lindsay's he's got that low one. Tim Patrick, there's a possibility someone offers him a lot of money in free agency and that one would be tough.
I could see it happening.
And then two of our tight ends, Jake Butt, who's been injured since we drafted him, which is kind of a bummer. And then Troy Fumagalli, who ended up playing decently. And then linebacker Austin Calitro, who really didn't get to play too much for us. And as we released, AJ Boye and Jarrell Casey. So there's still some things out there that we're gapped. I say all this. I say all these people that are still on our team technically until it's 4:00 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And you will probably see a couple names. I do see something's going to happen with Will Parks. I guarantee something's going to happen with Will Parks. Either we're going to say we're letting him go, or we're keeping him. But other than that, what is our need right now before free agency starts? What are we trying to trade for? What are we trying to get?
So first off, I don't know if you mentioned the name Itachu.
Jeremiah Tachi, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we do something with him to keep him around. He did made some solid plays last year and stepped up big time. In terms of what we're trying to do, man, I'd love to see us. A couple of the areas that we were weaker on in defense was the coverage and the run blocking. Yes, a lot of injuries, right? A lot of injuries, but I would fully expect us to shore that up. And I think you already saw that with the signing today of Darby. So I think there's a focus there. Our offensive line is pretty strong. I wouldn't be surprised if we go after someone else there. The AFC West, they're essentially with all these other players being let go, we are probably the strongest offensive line, but I wouldn't mind us getting somebody else to really shore that up, whoever the quarterback is back there, right? So running back, I think we're fine. Wide receiver, I think we're fine. Offense in general, I think we have the right pieces. There's still all that talk about what are we going to do for a backup quarterback. But in general, I would say that we're probably going to focus more on getting some solid depth on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so I'm going to get to a bunch of these questions because we're getting there, but I want to mention, so obviously the Raiders are just dismantling their offensive line for whatever reason. They just released, and he's still, it's not like he's an injury prone, it's not like he's young, he's still playing it as a top center. Rodney Hudson, sorry, I had to look up his name real quick. Rodney Hudson, he's a top center in the league. And if it wasn't for Lloyd Cushenberry, like we won, like talking about, everybody focuses on the quarterback position, like, oh, he's young, he needs someone to sit under for a year, whatever the case is. If that's the case, bring in Rodney Hudson and let Lloyd Cushenberry sit under that guy. Yeah. Right? That'd be a crazy signing. I don't think we're going to be able to afford him, honestly. He's got a pretty big cap. He's a big guy. He's probably going to have a lot of names on him, a lot of money going towards him. So I'm going to come to some of these questions. And I want to come back to this, Nathan, because this is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. Having Alex Smith come in as the quarterback carousel starts winding down, and the fact that we haven't really made any moves, or the news hasn't shown that we've made any moves. It's interesting to see what our plan is to bring in. Right, there's been a lot of talks about Andy Dalton. Right now, he's gone, and we're talking about other guys that have signed with other teams. I think this is going to be an interesting one. If we could bring in Alex Smith, I don't know what his plan is. I'm going to have to look that up. If he is going to get moved, I think they did release him. And I don't know what the news is on what Alex Smith is doing, but somebody like Alex Smith to come in and be the backup and let somebody as a backup to Locke to help him with his vision, which is the issue. But we'll have, I'm pretty sure the whole second half of this episode is going to be about Drew Locke, because that's what everybody wants to talk about. Let's see as we go through. We need a solid quarterback. We're going to talk about that in a minute. All right, Fidel says Lindsey will end up getting an offer from the Raiders, and Patrick will get an offer from Green Bay. That's interesting. Green Bay does need another big threat, and talk about big. I mean, tall and lanky and fast, and I think that is what he is. It's going to be interesting to see what they offer him, though, and what their cap space is. I should have had that pulled up right now, but their cap space might not be available. But good call. Letting Barrett go. Yep. Okay, that's an old one. Need a right tackle. Here we go. Steve Jackson. Need a right tackle. I agree. Juwan James. He sat out last year, and that was tough. For his own personal reasons, and we can't blame the guy for that. And if he comes back, we do expect him to be that guy, but he has only played a couple of games with us. He was injured for the most of the year before that, and then he sat out this year with the COVID. So I'm interested to see. I'd like to see him come back and be at the top of his game. I'd like to think that he took this COVID off time just to become a much better athlete. But it's always dangerous when somebody takes a year off to see what they come back as. So I think a right tackle is needed. And again, we talked about these restricted free agencies and unrestricted free agents. We're talking about both of our tackles. Both of our main tackles are going to be free agents. Like, those are our backup guys. If Juwan James doesn't pan out, we have nobody back there. So I agree. I think right tackle is probably top 3 on my board. On my board of either draft or free agent, right tackle is there, and I love it, Steve. Thanks, man. I'm right with you. I agree 100%.
So going back to Green Bay Packers as of today, and maybe this is not updated with any moves they made today, are negative 3.2 million in cap space. So now you're gonna have to wait and see what their unrestricted free agents are when they hit the market, right? But they don't look like they have too much space.
So for the record, from a sports management point of view, these like funny money deals like New Orleans gave to who's that, the quarterback down there, quarterback, tight end, linebacker, whatever he plays. Yeah. And this funny money deals to get around the cap space is too funny for me. Like I just saw something that somebody signed for like a 3-year, $400 million deal, but like it's all fake money. Like it's all avoidable. It's all avoidable. It's like, wow, like you really, I think that's kind of a funny, I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's something in the summer they're going to be like, okay, you can't do that, guys. Like, that's not how this works. That's not the point of this, but yeah. So, again, so I love the idea of Tim Patrick going to Green Bay, but it doesn't look like they got the money to be able to afford. I think we put a second round tender on him. Let me just verify before I give you guys wrong info. Second round tender. So,
now, if it helps, Broncos are still sitting at about 28 million in our own cap space. So,
and again, let's remember that you need 8 million going into the draft in order to have a full draft.
Yep.
So
there are a good number of teams, I'd say 10 or so, that are right there on the edge.
Yeah. And Jared, we didn't sign him. We tendered him. So that basically means we put a second round tender, meaning whatever the second round from his year of year group, that's how much the minimum is to be able to, the average from his year group. That's the minimum that is going to be able to need to be offered to him. We're making that tenders thinking no one's either going to offer him, or that's basically what we would offer him if that was the case. And we also have to minimally give that much. So we're basically saying, like, anybody want to match us, then match us. So we didn't sign him, but the odds are he's going to be a Denver Bronco unless we decide to trade him with a trade that was happening earlier. And I'll talk about that later. Going back to some of these questions, I know everyone wants to talk about the trade for Watson.
We'll get there.
They brought in Tyrod Taylor. We'll talk about it. Well, again, quarterback controversy aside, we'll talk about all that stuff.
Stick with us. We will get there. I promise.
Talk about all that. All right. Let's click on some comments here. What's Vaughn gonna look like this? Again, I love talking about the happy stuff. We can talk about the sad stuff all the time, but Vaughn's back. What's he gonna look like this year, Kev?
So he's had a whole year to bounce back. It sounded like it was just an absolutely crazy, weird injury, and he's had an entire year. Some people are sitting there wondering, hey, is he more injury prone now because he's older? How is his ankle and foot going to hold up? Because I think that's what it kind of came down to. But it's Von freaking Miller. He's going to go out there and he's going to be hungry to really make that name for himself after missing this last year. You got to remember that with him on that side, Bradley Chubb on the other side, that's going to make Bradley Chubb even more effective and dangerous than when they were both together a couple years ago. So I don't expect anything less than excellence coming out from Von Miller. First, preseason, maybe the first couple weeks or two, just maybe depending on how the ankle is, make sure we ease him into it, but he's going to go out there and he's going to ball out, man. I think, he's a little older now, but he's not going to go out there and be like, oh, my ankle hurts. Thanks for picking up my salary, guys, but I'm just going to sit this one out.
Yeah. And I'd like to see him run this, this tandem with Chubb kind of proving himself, not just last year, but the year before. And I'd love to see that tandem fully healthy the whole season. And let's just, keep hoping that happens. Jesse, knock on wood. And with this comment, I'd like to say, we're going to do some more off-season stuff. This is specifically focused on the last 24 to 48 hours of free agency as we look forward to the next. We will definitely talk about this more off-season stuff because this is a big issue. You're right. If we don't produce this season, I say if we go under 500, Vic Fangio's not with us next year. I don't think Drew Lock's with us next year. And we're going to kind of wipe a floor, and it's going to be very, very interesting. And you're right. I think it's going to be interesting to see how George Payton deals with the approach, not just finding a new coach, finding a new quarterback, probably a lot of these guys that we've had on the team for a while. If we don't have, and again, a knock on wood, I'm telling you right now, if we do not have a good season this year, the Broncos as we know it right now is not going to be the same. It's going to be completely different. And I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it
either. Here's the thing. You do that, you're talking a 3, 4, 5 rebuild process. And so everyone out there, you should want Drew Lock to succeed. Yeah, if we go 8-8, that's where we're going to be wondering, which way are they going to fall? Definitely if we go below 500, wipe the slate clean. I mean, it's going to be just as painful, if not more painful, as we build from the ground. Because Payton already came out and said, you don't build a team through free agency. So we know that his focus on building a team, and this team the way it is right now, is through the draft. And that takes time. So we want Drew Lock to go out there and succeed, show that he's, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We're not on this topic yet, but what I'm focusing on here is the team in general and what Peyton's going to do if we're at 8-8 or less.
Yeah. And so I'm going to catch up on some comments here. We're going to do some quick rapid fire. You ready, Kev?
Do it.
All right. Do you think with the cap to bring in Wilson from Minnesota to help our middle linebacker core, or do you think there's a middle linebacker in the draft that can start day one? Quick fire. I have a couple ideas. You go first. What do you think?
So I'll be completely honest. I'm not too familiar with the draft yet. I haven't spent a lot of time on it. I'd rather get somebody through the draft, to be honest with you.
So here's my thing is what do we think? And what does Vic Fangio think about Justin Strnad, right? He had an injury season last year. We picked up decently high last year in the draft. Do we think he can be another middle linebacker next to Alexander Johnson, who we also just gave a tender to? Do we think he could be that guy next to him? And if not, then yes, we need to go into the draft. And this might be concerning to everybody. I've been asking for a middle linebacker in the draft for the past 3 years. Just for the record, I've been every single year. I'm like, oh, we're going to get a middle linebacker this year. It's going to be good. And we pick up somebody that everybody else expected, and I didn't because I'm terrible at the draft at drafting. But I think Micah Parsons from Penn State, everybody's talking about him dropping with all these quarterbacks going high. If we do believe in Drew Lock and we get our corners and we get our tackle in the free agency, then we're talking about we can get someone like Micah Parsons at number 9. I think that's doable, and I think he could be a day one starter next to Alexander Johnson, who was a run stopper linebacker. He's a monster in the middle, the dinosaur, whatever we call him, a T-Rex. He's killing it. I think we get someone that can cover tight ends. We got someone that's fast, that can hit hard, that could also stop the run. I think he's the big guy. I love Penn State. I love Micah Parsons. That's where I'm thinking for our middle linebacker in the draft. Okay, I said quick and then I went too long. All right. Let's see. Vaughn's coming off injuries. I hope he doesn't get injured again. I really don't. I think he's I also don't hope he doesn't play scared, but I don't think he will. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. We finally get to see Vaughn, Chubb, and Vaughn with no injuries. Yes. Vaughn's training like a beast. There's Ayla. Ayla chiming in. She's killing it. Ayla chiming in. Ayla follows him on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, MySpace, all those are things. So she knows everybody. So she knows that Vaughn's, and he's probably cut more than anything else. All right. Oh man, here we go. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through and seeing which ones you guys are talking to each other. I appreciate it.
Keep posting your comments. If we're not getting to them, post them again. We have a ton coming in. Glad you're all here. Really.
So here's Red Cloud with his normal anti-lock propaganda.
It wouldn't be Red Cloud without him.
It wouldn't be Red Cloud without the anti-lock propaganda, and we'll talk about the Watson stuff here in a second. Yeah, so Patton, what did go to North Dakota State? So this is the big draw, right? Everyone's talking about the North Dakota State. I don't think I ended up tweeting it, but my thought process when everybody was freaking out on Twitter, freaking out on Facebook, it's like, oh my gosh, George Payton and 30 other teams are at North Dakota States to watch Trey Lance. Like, or you could say there's 30 teams at a college pro day to watch athletes, right? Like, oh no, he's at a college pro day to watch somebody that they have a quarterback. Like, I get it. I do get Trey Lance. And there's an option. I don't think he's counting anything out. I don't. Yeah. I mean, there might be someone that comes up and said, hey, we'll give you the best. I don't know what kind of situation for Drew Lock. And we're like, okay, well, we'll draft the next guy, whatever the case is. But I think right now, Drew Lock's the starter. If we do draft anybody, he's going to be under Drew Lock. I don't think it's going to be a quarterback controversy. If we draft anybody, I just don't see it happening in round 1. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, no, I keep going back to, I fully expect us to get a backup type of quarterback through free agency. If Drew Lock doesn't work out this year, you're going to see the changeover in quarterback about halfway through the season, try and salvage our season. And that's where next year I would think you'd see George Payton sell the farm to trade up to get the new franchise quarterback. It doesn't make sense to get another one right now. Then you have 2 young quarterbacks. You don't know if the other one's going to pan out, right? Because, maybe it's the 5th quarterback. So I don't know. Like right now, what you need from your backup quarterback is somebody who's going to help, but also push Drew Lock. And another rookie coming in is not going to be able to do that for him.
I love it. I think Lock's going to be our day 1 starter. I'd put money on it. I got to talk to Ray, find out what the Ragers. Got to find out what the Ragers is of Lock being starter day 1. All right, Vaughn should never play in any other colors. I tweeted this earlier. He is our franchise guy. I hope he doesn't ever play in other colors. I like to see what he does next year and hope we can work out a long-term deal to keep him in Denver. It sounds like he wants to. And Ayla can vouch for this. I saw him posting social medias. Yeah, I feel old, but social medias are saying that he wants to stay in Denver. So that's where we're at. Okay. Keith over here talking about the linebacker from LSU, Jabril Cox. I don't know where he's going. I didn't see him in the first round. So if we could pick him in the second round, that would be beautiful. If we could get a nice, solid linebacker. And again, I don't know too much about Jabril Cox. Can he cover linebackers?
So here's the interesting thing. Yeah, we're sitting at number 9, but I think what's going to throw off a lot of these draft predictions is the top 5 quarterbacks are probably going to be gone in the first 7 picks. And so with us sitting at number 9 and even later on, there's going to be a lot other players that should have been picked higher, right? But these early teams are getting the quarterback. So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, second round if he's still there. And whoever we get at number 9, minus the quarterbacks could really be a number 3 or number 4 value pick. So I just think that those 5 quarterbacks or so are going to be gone really early, and it's going to throw things off.
Agreed. Speaking of which, David agrees with us. I'm not sure. This was a while ago. I'm way behind on comments. I apologize, but thank you for agreeing with whatever we said. All right, Red Cloud says Justin Fields. That's where he's going for it. Look, man, I don't think we're trading up, man. I love the enthusiasm, but come on. It's
not so much would we trade up. It's what would they give up? Like, what would they accept for Justin Fields? Would they be willing to listen to any offers? Because now you don't have Justin Fields, unless some team says the next 4 years of first round picks and our number 1 player on the team. And, we'll throw in a cupcake there too, or something. I don't know. Like at that point, you're just like, look, we got Fields. We have the choice of getting him. We're going to go with him. So.
Absolutely. So this is my favorite question tonight. We normally start with this, but we haven't. So I have, something called Whistle Pig in this super cool decanter. It's not the decanter you got me, Kev. I'm sorry. It's a different one. Also, ship something called Whistle Pig was a friend got me. Great bourbon. Delicious. Yeah. What do you got, Kev?
Good old Stranahan's, nothing too
Stranahan's. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fancy,
all right. So too early to get into this. Are we currently good enough to win the conference? Yeah, it's a little too early. Kansas City still has, while they've gotten rid of their whole offensive line as well, still too early. They still have Patrick Mahomes. That's the difference maker right now in the AFC West. I do think we have the chance to be the number 2 for sure, where we're sitting right now, because we haven't had to make that many offseason. But also, let's not remember that the Chargers have not been very, other than the loss of Hunter Henry to the Patriots, they haven't had too much movement on their end. So they're going to be interesting to see too, because Justin Herbert is going to be interesting to watch this year, see how he does in his second year.
Now, Henry, my answer is going to be, are we a serious team in the conversation of a wild card spot? Yes, I do think that. It's not, will the Broncos even kind of in consideration? They're at the list and we got to fill time, so maybe we'll talk about it. It's like, no, this is a serious wild card contender. And I think that's where we are, especially if Drew Lock can fix that footwork, get some accurate passes, protect the football, and we stay healthy. We could go 10-6, 9-7. You also got to look at our schedule and get that wild card spot very realistically.
Perfect. All right. As we go on, it's
Nothing?
Watson or bust. Wait, did I miss? Did you
I said
take
you're
a stab
perfect.
at me?
No, I said you're perfect.
Yeah, that's why I blow by it. I get that told that every single day. This is just normal for me. Can we just move on? Okay. All right. Watson or bust. All right, let's talk about it. We said we've been teasing it. Let's talk about it. Watson, look, they brought in Tyrod Taylor. Houston's an option. We have to give up a lot. What is Houston looking for? Are they looking for a top wide receiver? Yes. Are they looking for a top linebacker? Yes. Are they looking for anything at this point? Yes. They just need somebody to help them out. I still do not think that Watson's going to be there. So you're right. I think that there's. Oh wait, you said Watson or bust to draft another quarterback. No, I don't think so. And this goes back up again. Somebody said probably Red Cloud. Let me see. Something about there it is. Yeah, as Broncos, we will blow the seasons on Lock. And if you don't feel like Lock's the guy, I get it. I understand. I think he really showed maturity through the second half of the season. But the problem is most of Broncos country was so disappointed in the first half of the season that they really didn't get to see the maturity and the increase in talent level and increase in seeing the field that we saw in the second half of the season. I would like to give him 1 year. And Vic Fangio, this is on him. If Vic Fangio keeps Drew Lock, we're talking about it's ride or die. They're ride or die together. They're both gone at the end of the season. If we don't have at least a winning season, I'd say if we don't make the wild card, this might be a ride or die season if they decide to roll with Lock.
Yep. And look, you keep talking about George Payton is talking about you build a team through the draft. If you trade the farm with first round picks and second round picks to bring in Watson and we don't do well, now you'll lose a lot of that draft capital to bring build your team through. So I don't see that happening because there are going to be a lot of other teams that are willing to trade a lot to get Watson. And I can't see George Payton sitting there saying we might have to really seriously rebuild this team from the draft up. Let's give away all our draft picks for the next 3 years and see how it goes. I'm sorry, I just don't see it.
Yep. So this is interesting, Keith, and I think I don't want to misquote him. I think Benjamin Albright tweeted this as well. Don't be surprised if there's movement on trading back from number 9, depending on what we do. I'll tell you right now, Keith, where we're sitting right now in the free agency, I don't see us trading back from 9. I see us taking a best available player. Unless tomorrow we see massive movement, 3 or 4 signings, I just don't see us trading back from 9. I think we're going to need to get best player available, whether that be Farley or a linebacker, Micah Parsons. I still don't think we're going to draft a quarterback, but that's just my opinion. If we had more of an adventurous offseason so far or free agency so far, I could see us trading back. I just don't see it right now where we're sitting today. Ask me again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
And even next week.
Or even next week, yeah. So Jameson, Robert's drinking that Jameson.
Yeah.
He also says as long as we're better than the Raiders. Honestly, winning season if we're better than the Raiders.
Always.
Okay. Opinions on our backup quarterbacks last year as we're talking about quarterbacks.
Oof.
So far behind. You guys are killing it. I love it.
We don't have it goes back to my comment earlier. Our backup quarterback, especially right now, needs to be somebody who can step in and salvage the season halfway through should we need it. But bigger than that, it needs to be somebody who can help coach Drew Lock, but push him as well. Ripien, could walk in and maybe help win a couple games. He's not going to push Drew Lock though, so I know a lot of people like Ripien. He's a good third stringer, that guy of absolute emergency kind of thing, practice squad. But again, it goes back to who's going to be able to come in and push Drew Lock to be better.
Ripien would be an amazing backup number 2 to Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. Now that he's retired though, but or Tom Brady, somebody who's an established number 1 who doesn't need help from their backup.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Drew Lock might need an extra set of eyes out there. And I agree. I think, depending on how long Locke was out for a little bit longer than we expected last year. And Rippon had a good first couple games, as they normally do, as backup quarterbacks, and then just it kind of fell apart. All right, David agreed that Von Miller should remain with the Broncos. Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, this one might take a little while. All right, so Cecil Lammy says that a source told him the Chiefs would welcome Lindsey with open arms. Are the Chiefs in a position to be able to pay him, whether it only be $3 million or not? And I mean, what do they gain? And I don't think we should be worried. I love Cecil Lammy. Okay, let me back up. Cecil Lammy's got some takes. All right, let's be PC about this. He's got some takes that are just far out there for the clicks and for the likes. I get it. I appreciate it. He does what he does. He's an insider in the NFL that we're not. Yep. I think he's doing this. I think this is one of those kind of like push button things. I don't think that we should be worried about this.
The Chiefs have enough money. They have 30 million right now in cap space. They could go get somebody much more high, top dollar running back should they really want one. And I don't think running back is a top need for them this year. So I don't see why they'd go out and do that when they could use that little extra money, go out and get a bigger name guy. So I would also like to think that the Broncos would say, no, we're going to match that offer. And no, you're not going to go to the Chiefs. So
Well, not just that, but I mean, they have a young. Last year, he played so well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I had him on my fantasy team. Why would you go out and get another guy like? And he was already towards the end of the season being used as a 1-2 guy to. I think it was Darrell Williams. I'm not 100% sure, but
look,
But
you got those guys. Where is Lindsey going to go on the 53-man roster at that point? So I'm not worried.
Yeah. Houston signed Tyrod Taylor. That's why there's a lot of talk about. What's that? Yeah, no, keep up, bro. Yeah, no. So that's why everyone, as soon as that happened, they were like, "Oh, they got a number one." Is there? Yeah, no, that's not happening. Also, yes, Kevin's letting me run the show tonight.
I might have had a little before. Drink responsibly. Seriously, guys.
Drink responsibly. Watson said he wants to go to Denver, San Fran. I like it. We'll see what happens. We'll see what. Again, remember, Watson's not a free agent. He is controlled by his contract that he signed with Houston for 5 years. So he signed a contract saying, "I'll stay with you for 5 years unless you trade me." So it really depends on if Houston's willing to give up what they're willing to give up or what they're willing to take for him. I just don't see it happening. I hear the Saints are in it too, but the interwebs. Okay, that's cool.
This time right now, there are so many rumors running around that you can't really trust much. It's hard to sit there and say this sounds very reasonable, and it might, but it also could be a load of crap at the same time. So for me, it's just wait and see what happens. There are so many variables, so many things that could happen across the league that are going to impact all these other teams. So like you said, Cal, it's the interweb shit. So who knows?
The interwebs, and everybody's got a hot take. And that's something that we try not to do. We sit here and we go, look, this is what we think. This is what's going to happen. We're not going to say insider threats or insider sources told me that Watson's coming to Denver because he likes the mountains. We're not going to do that. All right. Thank you, Nathan, for this Bourbon Broncos No BS. The show you guys are watching. This is our flagship show during the season. We do it every Tuesday night. I appreciate Nathan for watching. Thank you guys so much. Denver Broncos for life. Love it,
guys.
All right. All right, so here's another question that looks like I'm almost caught up. Broncos firing Rich Scangarello and hiring Pat Shurmur screwed up Locke's familiarity with the offensive scheme he was under. Absolutely.
Yep.
You hit it right on the head, Jesse. This is exactly what happened. There was some unfamiliarity, and on top of that, we got a new offensive coach, and everything was on Teams or Zoom or whatever they were trying to figure out. There was no time on the field because of COVID.
Yep.
So there was really no time to get used to the scheme, get used to the reads. It's different when you have the speed of the receivers. Plus, now think about it this way. We brought in two new wide receivers, two rookie wide receivers that he was not used to the speed of. We're not used to having the speed of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, right? So Cortland Sutton coming in there. Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick kind of very similar.
Sutton back. I cannot wait for him.
We have Tim Patrick back. I mean, we have Cortland Sutton back, and we got Jerry Jeudy, we got KJ Hamler in the slot, and we got Tim Patrick. We're talking about 4 wide receiver sets. Let's go, baby. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that's the case. I think there was a little bit of hurt there with the difference, but I do like Pat Shurmur's offense. A lot of people didn't like it. I like the Pat Shurmur offense. It opens it up a little bit more for Drew Lock. Once we have Cortland Sutton back, I think we'll be good.
I'm glad I'm not hearing a lot of people cry for Pat Shurmur's head, because anything Drew
mid-season there was a different story.
Right. But right now, Drew Lock needs that continuity. Drew Lock, the young youngest offense in the NFL last year. They probably still have that same title this year, if not really close to it. They need that continuity. Again, if the team goes less than 500, you're going to see all of them gone, and it'll be interesting to see what happens from there. But going into this year, I'm glad people aren't calling for his head. I'm glad he's still there, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what he does again with some of these players and being able to come back and actually practice in person.
Yes, thank you, Jesse, for that. Beautifully spot on. A cover corner would be nice. I agree. I don't think we're done in the free agency picking up corners. I don't think there's a lot of big names left. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if the kid from Cincinnati, that was the big one I was watching. There's a guy from Cincinnati. I don't know if he got signed. There's been a lot of movement in this free agency and hard to track. I'm interested to see, because I do know Cincinnati picked up the Xavion or whatever his name is from Dallas. So we'll get back to you on that. Kevin's looking it up. Mariota or Smith. Honestly, I would take Smith over Mariota, and here's why. Drew Lock's need right now is reading the field. It's not so much his footwork. His footwork's good. His timing is good. His arm is amazing. His reading is difficult. He cannot read an open receiver right now. And again, as we saw as the season went on, he got a little bit better and a little bit better. And I think Alex Smith is the guy to be able to read a field. I think he's the guy that can control the defense. He can go to the line and find out what cover they're in, and I think that's the guy that's going to be able to teach Locke to get to the next level. I'm on the get Alex Smith as a backup train right now, in case you were wondering. And we'll see where that's at. Locke is a greasy Red Cloud. Come on, man. Come on. All right. All right, seriously though, unless we spend money, we have nobody to push Locke, but I like Ripon as a backup with someone to push him he could beat. I agree. Again, same we were talking about earlier, Kale. Under an established quarterback who doesn't need help, Ripon could be the guy to be the backup in this league. Right now, he just doesn't fit with the Denver Broncos, because Denver Broncos need someone that's on their way out as opposed to at their peak or on their way in to be able to help Locke push that. Smith would be a good backup. Thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate it. Tampa Bay's defense was a problem for the Chiefs. I think our defense can do the same. I think so. I think you'll see it. You'll see it this year. I don't think we're going to see any more shutouts like we did this year. I don't think we're going to see those ridiculous games like we did this year, because Tampa Bay's defense found out what they could do to stop the Kansas City Chiefs. Yep. And I honestly that. And not just saying because they lost the Super Bowl. Like, they still went to the Super Bowl. They're going to be a good team. Yep. But I do think that Tampa Bay figured out what it is that they're operating on and stopped it. Also, they don't have an offensive line right now. Let's remember that. Again, we go back to the question earlier. This might be too soon to figure out that we're the best in the AFC, because they still have to fill the whole offensive line. They just let all their guys go. So,
and that's a whole nother Kansas City discussion, Pat Mahomes. But I think you're seeing more and more teams figure out, and Pat Mahomes is going to have to figure out how to change things with that offensive line. And I talk about this because that could come into the Broncos' favor in at least one of the games we play this year.
Gotcha. Steve, I know, again, I'm still catching up on comments. I'm so sorry I'm so far behind, guys. You guys are really amazing tonight. I appreciate it. I'm not sure who you're talking about. I'm sure who has a no trade clause. I know we were talking about Watson. What's it?
Watson, probably.
No, but I mean, unless he asks for it, he could have the no trade clause, but if he asks for the trade, he can waive it. He can waive it. So maybe that's what you're talking about, Steve. Sorry if I missed it. Hey, Robert, we missed you too, man. We did.
That's all you
Yeah, this is fun. We miss doing this. We really do. And you guys are being amazing tonight. This is great. I'm so far behind in the comments. I so apologize. Russell Wilson might be available according to rumors. That is an option. If he is, it's an option we might want to look at. Watson coming to Denver next season in the Texans. Watson is coming to Denver just in the Texans uniform. I like it. Robert's not a fan of Shermer. Okay. How do we think Jerry Jeudy is going to do? I think Jerry Jeudy is going to have a better year. I think he learned from his lessons in the drops last year. And I think opposite somebody like Cortland Sutton, who demands double teams, is going to be pretty established. I think that's going to be very, very good for him. Also, I do think that Noah Fant's going to come back the same way he did last year. And we're talking about who are you going to cover when we have those numbers. But that, again, that goes back to Drew Lock reading the field.
We'll
what
see.
we do.
I'm excited. I'm very optimistic, and not just because I'm wearing my blue and orange glasses. I'm very optimistic about what this young team learned last year, and the capability they have if they can stay healthy and just protect the ball is the big one.
Yes, Red Cloud, you gave this whole long thing. I'm too long, didn't read. Defense wasn't our problem. Our OS. No, I'm just giving you shit. So again, another hate on Locke. We should stop talking about him. Most greats were great out of the gate. We need to wait 5 more years to Locke it right. Defense was not our problem. Our OS. I agree. Yeah, 100%. 2 tight end sets with Fant and Albert O. Kind of like the pant with Gronk. So here's the thing: Gronk and Hernandez. Gronk, both of those were bigger guys. I think Albert O, while I like him a lot, he's definitely more of a passer. And both of them were passing too, but they were also physically bigger than both Fant and Albert O. Albert O and Fant are both guys that you can flex out into the slot. But I love it. I love the double tight end sets with them because you really talking about making a defensive coordinator go crazy and figuring out what you're trying to run. That's the way to do it. Yep. What do you think of?
Yes, I mean, again, you have these pieces and it gives you options. You put Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon back there. You put Alberto and Noah Fant out there. It's going to give those defenses a hard time. Who are we going to cover? There's so many options, and for Drew Lock to read out there. Defense can only cover so many players that I love it. I like Albert O. Him going down in the season hurt because he has a lot of potential.
Yes. Locke is Ryan Leaf is not opinion. Locke can't read shit and needs hooked on phonics. Thank you, Red Cloud, for that. And Robert's over here. Locke, that's my quarterback. Look, we got it coming from all angles, man. I love it. This is awesome. Our kicker needs a break. He picked way too much last year. I agree, man. We need to get score in the red zone. And again, we're talking about free agency. I'm just getting through comments. I want to get everybody here. Who's the next free agent signing for Denver this week? Give me something good. Let me Google his name because I want him and I already forgot his name.
You're not talking about
the Cincinnati cornerback. What's his name? Kevin, give it to me. Oh man,
I got distracted.
Oh.
Not Troy Hill.
No. All right.
William Jackson, the third.
Yes, William Jackson. I think he can be a number 1 cornerback in our system, and I think we're kind of waiting to see what he could be. I don't think the signing that we had here recently with Ronald Darby, I don't think that's a fix. No. I think that's kind of like a plug and play guy. Like, we're gonna bring him in. We did pay him a little bit of money. But I don't think he's the fix for the cornerback situation. He has an injury history. He's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's the number 1 guy that we really need. Also, we have a young corner. We have a bunch of young corners that played decently well last year when thrown into the fire. But I do think that William Jackson is going to be our notable free agency signing this year, and I think he's going to be the biggest impact for the Broncos if we can pick him up. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're going to see a lot of focus on defense and the coverage. Cornerbacks are perfect. They're going to help you with that run defense, and they're going to help you with the coverage. I think that's a position of need. And so getting somebody like William Jackson there through free agency is huge. And then if you can get somebody early in the draft too, to bring in some of that young talent, that's kind of where I'm at. I would not be surprised if there's a big focus on the cornerback position.
Right. I appreciate it, Glenn. Thank you so much. Let us know when your next show is. We'll definitely jump on. I appreciate it. Jerry will be better when we have a quarterback in the throw. I get it. Okay. This year is going to be last year. what last year was supposed to be. I agree.
Last year was so weird. There are so many weird things that happened last year. You're right. That's exactly what I'm approaching the season as.
Yep.
I think Fidel spot on.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Keith, thank you so much. Yeah, this it's still low. I've only got 11 years. Kevin, where's yours?
See, mine.
No, you guys do patches, don't you? Air Force does patches.
But you know what Jared doesn't have is this military Broncos coin.
Oh, you son of a!
Yeah,
had to bring it out.
Why
is it sitting right there? It's like you were waiting for this moment.
I have been like there. I was like, eventually somebody will ask about coins and I'll have it. I got to get my own coin.
All right, Jacob thinks Denver's done signing free agencies this year, and that's fine. Building the draft, save some cap, and honestly, that's if we're taking everything at face value, that's exactly what George Payton's been saying.
Yep.
We don't want to move too much in the free agency. We want to build from the draft, and George Payton says he's probably going to be here for a few years. So even if the next few years doesn't work out, he's going to be able to choose his guys.
Yeah.
And he can't be the fall guy right now. He can't because he's the new guy. But guess who can? The head coach can. The quarterback can. John Elway, maybe. I mean, he promoted himself. So that's not really a case. But yeah. So I agree. I think Jacob, you're spot on that one.
Maybe 2 free agency signings from the Broncos. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not going to see us go do what the Patriots are doing and signing people left and right. It's just not going to happen. And that's okay.
Yep. Thank you, Glenn. I'm so far behind. You guys told me I could have read your comments earlier. No idea who Darby is. Miss Harris Jr. I do too, man. I miss Chris. Chris Harris. He was a monster back there, and he was again like a Kareem Jackson, a guy that could hype up the defense. And again, with the loss of Kareem Jackson, I'm interested to see what the motivation and what the hype of the defense is. Because if you watch defenses, there's one person on that defense that can really get the team going. And if it's all passive guys, it's going to be a little bit interesting. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Red Cloud, we love you too. Even with your Lock hatred, we're gonna post it here, man.
I look forward to it. I do.
Also the witty stuff that was pretty good. I liked it. Another Steve Atwater, if there's out there. This is interesting.
Steve Atwater would be fined and suspended all the time. Like he'd be out there for a game, have one of his Steve Atwater hits, and they'd be like, "You're out for 3 games because it's too hard." That is what they would.
Oh man.
But I love Steve Atwater.
So it looks like insider William Jackson looks like he might be going to Minnesota, which would suck, man.
Let's see.
I think talking about top corners that are probably underrated. I think William Jackson's one of them. If he does go to Minnesota, that's for me is going to be a hit for me. And I'm finally caught up. Okay, I don't think Peyton wanted to make a splash this year. I think he wants to see what he has with his team, coaches, and players included. I 100% agree. And this goes back to, I'm not sure if it was your comment. I'm sorry. I don't remember everybody that's commenting. Going back to the comment earlier, this team is what it could be from last year. At the beginning of last year, we expect this team to be great. We expect this team to be a playoff team. We expect it to be 10-win, 11-win team. Are we there now? I think this team right now, where we're sitting, could be there. We have a whole draft ahead of us. And right now, honestly, in the AFC, we're the only team that has a full team.
Yeah.
Like Kansas City and Oakland still have no offensive lines. And, well, I guess the Chargers, if they still exist and wherever they live now, they haven't made much moves. But, yeah, I agree 100% with you, Jacob. I think this is exactly where we're at.
You skipped one there, Jared.
Did skip one. I can't look. I just
you skipped one there.
Yeah.
Outlock. Go Broncos Outlock. Okay, let's get some closing comments again, guys. Glad you're all here. Thanks for all the comments. You're fantastic. We are going to be doing a bunch of stuff throughout the rest of the offseason. We're going to do a post kind of free agency show to kind of walk through everything the Broncos did. We're going to do some pre-draft stuff. We're going to be live during the draft all the way up through the Broncos picks. We'll put podcasts out through then. We're going to be doing some fun shows like trivia nights and some other things to kind of help us get through this off-season blues, if you will. So keep an eye out. We're going to stay active. Make sure you check out our Twitter. Our very own David has been absolutely killing it on Twitter. We've been getting a lot of attention from a lot of big name guys. He's fantastic. So make sure you go follow us at Orange Weekly on Twitter, as well as Instagram there. So keep an eye out, guys. We're not going anywhere. This is our 6th year here at Orange Weekly. Glad you all been sticking around with us. Got some longtime fans and a lot of new faces, so hope you keep coming back here to Orange Weekly. I guess any closing comments there, Jared? I know we talked about a lot, but some big picture things, anything you're thinking of?
Big picture stuff. I agree with what we were talking about earlier in the fact that I think this is done. I think we're done for the free agency. I don't see any big signings. And I saw one, Adam Schefter just reporting that William Jackson's reached agreement with Washington. I'm done. Mic drop. I'm out of here. I don't want to play this game anymore. We got Darby. They got Jackson. I'm kind of mad. But honestly, look, we're probably not going to get Watson. We're not going to get Deshaun Watson. We're not going to make big splashes. I think we're going to draft in the free agency, and George Payton's going to see what he has with this team. And I know it's not the flashy, I know it's not the clickbaity, like everybody should come watch this, but that's really what it is. And thank you guys so much for watching year after year and Tuesday after Tuesday for Bourbon Broncos No BS. We definitely appreciate it.
Definitely. Those who are watching internationally as well as within the United States, appreciate all of you. If you haven't done so already and you want to give us some feedback, please give us a rating on Facebook. Make sure you follow us on any of the podcast stations you listen to. Find us there. Give us a rating. If you missed part of this show, you can go back and watch it, or you can listen to it there on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcast. So pretty much wherever you want to listen to some Broncos talk and some Orange Weekly, we got you covered, whether it's the social medias, as Jared says, or
social medias.
Podcast. So look, guys, don't expect a lot over the next couple of days, maybe a couple of big signings from the Broncos, 1 or 2, but then really get prepared for the draft, because that's where we're going to make a lot of noise in terms of, who we're going to pick up and what this team's going to look like. Young team, very confident in what they can do. Hopefully this COVID stuff starts allowing them to get back to life normally, but and as long as we can stay healthy. So Jared, you look upset.
Cornerback William Jackson reached agreement with Washington football scene for 3 years, $42 million. Okay, I see why we didn't sign him anymore. All right, cool. We good. I'm not paying $42 million for 3 years for a corner.
First, guys, breaking orange alert. Orange alert.
Yes, I think I appreciate it too. Who was it that mentioned that? Yeah, Daniel. Thank you so much for giving me that heads up. I just checked it out, and you're right. That's rough. Anyways, hey, thanks for watching. Good night, guys. Have a great night. Beautiful. And always, go Broncos.
Broncos. See ya.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I